Hello, ladies and gentlemen. The human mind has a tendency to grasp, to cling to ideas, expectations, and outcomes as if these things will bring us some lasting sense of security. But the more we try to control life, the more we invite struggle and frustration into our experience. Life, in all its complexity, cannot be tamed or bent to our will. The more we attempt to impose our desires onto it, the more it slips through our fingers. It is like trying to hold water in your hands. The tighter you grip, the more it escapes. In our desperate attempts to control, we create unnecessary tension, and in doing so, we lose touch with the very flow of life itself. Control is a mental construct. It is a belief that we can dictate the course of events, that we can control the conditions around us and shape them according to our will. But life, as we know, is far more unpredictable than we can ever comprehend. Trying to control it is like trying to control the wind. It's beyond our grasp. The more we resist life's natural flow, the more we create inner turmoil. It's only when we release the need for control that we allow ourselves to become a part of something much greater than our individual, will we begin to participate in the rhythm of the universe itself, not as an outsider, but as a natural element of it. There is a great freedom in surrender. It is not about giving up or becoming passive. It is about acknowledging that we are part of a greater process, a dance that has been going on long before our individual selves arrived. When we stop trying to force outcomes, we begin to see that life moves in patterns, that there is an inherent order to the universe. And it's not an order that we need to impose, it's one that unfolds naturally when we stop trying to control it. Just as a river flows effortlessly around obstacles, so too can we move with the currents of life instead of against them. When we cease to force, to control, we allow ourselves to be in harmony with the world around us. The concept of Wu Wei from Taoism speaks to this idea, the art of effortless action, of going with the flow. It's the understanding that by not resisting, by not pushing against what is, we can be far more effective. Imagine the way the sun rises and sets without effort, or the way plants grow without trying to control their growth. There is no anxiety, no hurry. Everything happens as it should, naturally, and we too can become part of this effortless unfolding. To live in harmony with the flow of life requires trust. Trust in the unknown, trust that everything is unfolding in its own time, trust that we don't need to control every detail. We are not separate from the world, we are intricately woven into the fabric of it. When we stop trying to force things to fit our narrow view, we see that the world is much more expansive, much more beautiful than we ever imagined. By surrendering to the flow, we become part of a larger process that transcends our individual concerns. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that life must unfold according to our plans. But the true art of living lies in the ability to flow with life as it presents itself. When we let go of the need to control, we realize that life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. We begin to see that it's not the destination that matters, but the journey itself. And the journey, when we let go of control, becomes a beautiful dance where we move with the rhythm of the world instead of against it. The ego is a construct, a mask that we wear to navigate the world, but it is not our true identity. It is a creation of the mind, a series of thoughts and beliefs that we come to associate with ourself. We identify with the body, the mind, the emotions, all of these things, but in doing so, we mistakenly believe that they define us. The ego is a temporary expression, like a wave in the ocean, rising up and falling back into the water. It appears to be distinct, separate, but in reality it is inseparable from the ocean itself. It cannot exist apart from the whole. And yet we cling to it as if it was something solid, something permanent. This identification with the ego creates a false sense of separation. We begin to believe that we are separate from others, from the world, and even from the universe. We think of ourselves as individual entities, isolated and alone. But this is a profound illusion. The individual self is no more separate from the universe than a wave is separate from the ocean. Just as the wave arises from the ocean and returns to it, so do we emerge from the vast interconnected web of life, only to return to it when our time comes. The ego, then, is merely a temporary expression of the greater whole, a wave that rises and falls, but never truly departs from the ocean. When we let go of the ego, we begin to see that we are not isolated individuals, but part of a greater cosmic unity. The illusion of separation dissolves, and we realize that our true nature is not confined to the body or the mind, but is boundless, ever-present, and interconnected with everything. Just as the wave is not separate from the ocean, we are not separate from the cosmos. The false sense of I and mine fades away, and in its place arises a deep sense of unity with all that is. The ego, in its self-centeredness, seeks to control, to accumulate, to define itself in opposition to everything else. But when we release this false sense of identity, we open ourselves to a deeper understanding of who we really are. We begin to experience life not from the narrow perspective of the ego, but from a place of wholeness, where the boundaries between self and other begin to blur. We stop seeing the world as a collection of objects to be manipulated and instead see it as an interconnected whole, where everything is in constant relationship. In this realization, the need to defend the ego weakens. The fear of loss, of failure, of judgment, all these anxieties that arise from a fragile, egoic sense of self lose their grip on us. The ego, once seen as a protective barrier, becomes nothing more than a temporary form that we wear, a costume we put on for the experience of life. We can embrace it, but we do not need to identify with it. In letting go of the ego, we return to a state of openness, where we are free to experience the fullness of existence without the distortion of self-centeredness. The deeper truth is that there is no I in the ultimate sense, no separate, isolated self that exists apart from the flow of life. Our true identity is boundless, and the recognition of this truth opens up a profound freedom. When we let go of the illusion of the ego, we no longer need to strive, to accumulate, or to prove our worth. We can simply be as we are, a wave in the ocean, a fleeting expression of the vast and infinite universe. The very nature of existence is change. Nothing is permanent, and that is its inherent beauty. From the moment we are born, we are in the process of becoming, evolving, and eventually passing away. Every moment is in motion. Every experience flows from one to the next, and yet we often cling to the illusion of permanence. We form attachments to things, people, and even ideas, believing that they should remain fixed, stable, and unchanging. But this attachment to permanence is the root of much of our suffering. We resist change, we fight against the natural flow of life, and in doing so, we become trapped in a cycle of anxiety and frustration. Impermanence is not something to fear, it is something to embrace. Just as the seasons shift, the sun rises and sets, and the tides ebb and flow, change is the very pulse of life. It is only through change that life can renew itself. If everything stayed the same, there would be no growth, no new possibilities, and no beauty in the unfolding of time. Every moment is a fleeting expression of the greater whole, a moment that will never come again, and yet each one is perfect in its transience. To resist impermanence is to resist life itself, but to embrace it is to open ourselves to the fullness of existence. When we accept impermanence, we begin to see that there is no point in clinging to things, for nothing can last forever. The people we love, the experiences we cherish, the material possessions we accumulate, all of these are impermanent. In the end, all things fade away. And yet this is not a tragedy, it is the nature of existence. It is through the impermanence of life that we experience its depth and richness. If we truly understood this, we would not be so attached to the illusion of permanence, but instead we would savor each moment as it comes, knowing that it will soon pass. Letting go of our attachment to permanence allows us to move more freely with the flow of life. When we no longer expect things to remain static, we can approach each moment with openness and curiosity, ready to meet whatever comes next. Change is not something to be feared or resisted, it is simply the ongoing process of life unfolding. We can choose to see change not as loss, but as an opportunity for renewal, an invitation to step into new experiences and new possibilities. Every ending is a new beginning, and every transition holds the potential for growth and transformation. Our attachment to permanence often stems from fear of loss, fear of the unknown, fear of the inevitable changes that will come. But in embracing impermanence, we dissolve this fear. We begin to see that loss is not truly loss, but simply a shift in form, a transition from one state to another. Just as the leaf falls from the tree and returns to the earth, so too does every moment return to the vast, ever-changing flow of life. There is no permanent thing that we can hold on to, but there is an eternal process of transformation that we can be a part of, one that is infinitely beautiful in its ever-changing nature. When we truly let go of the desire for permanence, we stop resisting the inevitable changes that life brings. We stop clinging to the past, fearing the future, and instead we can simply be present in the moment. It is only in embracing the fleeting nature of life that we can truly appreciate it, that we can see the beauty in the passing of time, in the unfolding of each unique moment. To live fully is to understand that nothing lasts, and to find joy in that very transience. The rhythm of life is not one of stasis but of constant motion, and in that motion we find the profound beauty of existence itself. The human mind craves certainty. We want to know what will happen next, to be able to predict and control the future. This need for certainty is a source of great anxiety. We cling to plans, strategies, and assumptions, believing that if we can just map out the future, we will feel secure. But in reality, life is not something we can control or predict with precision. The more we attempt to secure every outcome, the more we find ourselves anxious, constantly burdened by the fear of the unknown. We become trapped in the illusion that we must have everything figured out, and in doing so, we miss the richness of life that is unfolding right before us. When we let go of the need for certainty, we free ourselves from the mental chains that bind us to a fixed idea of how life should unfold. To live with certainty is to live in a state of constant preparation, always focused on the future, always worried about what might happen. But life in its essence is unpredictable, dynamic, and fluid. The unknown is not something to fear, but something to embrace. It is the space where creativity, spontaneity, and growth occur. It is in the unknown that we discover new possibilities, new experiences, and new ways of being. By releasing our attachment to certainty, we open ourselves up to the vastness of life that cannot be contained by plans and expectations. Living without the need for certainty means allowing life to surprise us, to unfold in its own mysterious way. It is like letting a river flow freely, rather than trying to force it into a rigid channel. When we stop clinging to fixed ideas and expectations, we become more present in each moment, more attuned to the spontaneous flow of life. This release of control doesn't mean giving up on goals or intentions, but it means allowing space for life to take its own course. It is trusting that even in uncertainty there is wisdom, and that the unfolding of events will lead us exactly where we need to be, even if we cannot predict it. In the absence of certainty, we find freedom. The need to know everything in advance dissolves, and with it, the constant anxiety about what might go wrong. Instead of constantly trying to control the outcome, we begin to engage with life in a more fluid, open way. We let go of the pressure to be in charge of every detail and allow life to unfold as it will. This doesn't mean a passive resignation to whatever happens, but rather an active participation in the present moment, where the focus is on being, not controlling. It is in this state of flow that we find true creativity and joy, as we move with the currents of life instead of trying to direct them. To let go of the need for certainty is to trust in the inherent wisdom of the universe. To trust that life, as unpredictable and uncertain as it may seem, is not something to be feared. In fact, it is in the unknown that we find the possibility for growth, transformation, and discovery. The unknown is not an empty void, but a vast space of potential. When we stop trying to know everything, we allow ourselves to experience the richness of life, the full depth of each moment, without the burden of expectation. Letting go of certainty brings peace of mind. The constant striving to control the future is replaced with a deeper trust in the flow of life. We are no longer anxious about what will happen next, because we accept that uncertainty is part of the dance of existence. In that acceptance, we find peace, knowing that life is unfolding as it should, even if we don't have all the answers. This trust allows us to be fully present, to experience life more fully, and to live with a sense of freedom that comes only when we release the need to know and control every outcome. The present moment is the only reality we ever truly experience. All that we have is this moment, the one we are living right now. Yet our minds are constantly drawn to the past or the future, either reliving memories or worrying about what is to come. In this constant mental distraction, we miss the richness of the present. The past is gone, and the future has not yet arrived. They are abstractions, fragments of time that only exist in our minds. The present, however, is real, alive, and immediate. To fully embrace life, we must let go of our attachment to what has already happened or what might happen and simply be in the now. This is where life unfolds, where we can truly experience the flow of existence. Acceptance is not about resignation or passivity. It is about actively engaging with the present moment, without resistance. When we accept the present as it is, we stop fighting against reality. We stop wishing for things to be different and start experiencing them as they are. Acceptance does not mean that we approve of everything that happens, but it means that we acknowledge the reality of the moment, whatever it may be, without judgment. By releasing the need to control or change what is, we find peace in simply being with what is. In that peace, we discover the true power of presence, which is not a passive experience, but a deep, conscious engagement with life. To let go is to accept each moment without resistance. The past is a collection of memories, and the future is a series of imagined possibilities, but neither of these exist in the present. When we let go of the grip that these temporal concerns have on us, we are free to experience the present fully. This doesn't mean we stop planning or reflecting, but we do so with awareness, grounded in the present. By being present, we become attuned to the subtle rhythms of life, the natural flow of events, and the interconnectedness of all things. It is in this deep connection to the present moment that we find true freedom, not in the pursuit of the past or future, but in the awareness of now. Presence is not just about being physically here, it is about being mentally and emotionally here as well. It is the state of being awake to the moment, of seeing things as they truly are, without the filters of past experiences or future expectations. The mind has a tendency to wander, to be caught up in thoughts, judgments, and distractions, but true presence requires that we observe our thoughts without becoming them. By doing so, we can step outside the constant chatter of the mind and enter a space of awareness, where life unfolds as it is, without our interference. This is not something we can force, but something we must allow. Presence is not a task, but a state of being where we experience life directly, without mediation or interpretation. Living in the present moment is a practice, a way of returning to ourselves again and again. It is a practice of acceptance, accepting ourselves, accepting others, accepting the world as it is. When we let go of the need to control or judge what is happening, we can be open to the full range of experiences that life offers. Each moment, whether it is one of joy or pain, is an opportunity for growth and connection. In the space of presence, we find that everything has its place, that every moment is meaningful, and that we are not separate from the world around us, but deeply connected to it. This is the beauty of letting go. By surrendering to the present moment, we step into the flow of life and experience it as it truly is. Acceptance does not mean that we are passive observers of life, detached from its challenges or joys. Instead, it means that we engage with life from a place of awareness and understanding, with the wisdom that all things, both pleasant and unpleasant, are part of the greater whole. When we accept the present moment, we stop trying to force it to be something else. We allow ourselves to be fully in it, to experience it with all of its complexity. In that acceptance, we find a deep peace, a connection to life that transcends the need for certainty, control, or judgment. The power of presence is that it allows us to experience life directly, without distortion, and in doing so, we discover the fullness of being. In the end, letting go is not an act of surrendering to nothingness, but of opening ourselves to everything that life has to offer. It is the liberation from the illusions of control, certainty, and separation, allowing us to align with the natural flow of existence. By releasing our attachment to the ego, we realize that we are not isolated beings, but part of a vast, interconnected universe. This realization frees us from the need to defend or cling to a false sense of self and opens the door to a deeper experience of life, one that is not constrained by mental constructs or rigid expectations, but is expansive, fluid, and alive. As we embrace the impermanence of life, we come to understand that change is not something to resist, but a natural rhythm of existence. The fleeting nature of each moment is what gives it its beauty. When we stop clinging to the illusion of permanence, we open ourselves to the fullness of experience. We can find joy not in what remains fixed, but in the constant ebb and flow of life's transitions. This understanding allows us to live with greater ease, free from the anxiety that comes from trying to hold on to things that are inherently transient. The need for certainty is another barrier that we must release. It is a form of mental anxiety, a desperate grasping at something that cannot be controlled. Life is not a puzzle to be solved, but a mystery to be experienced. By letting go of our attachment to knowing everything in advance, we free ourselves to live with spontaneity, creativity, and peace. In the unknown, we find the room to explore, to grow, and to truly be. The unknown is not a source of fear, but a realm of possibility where life reveals itself in new and surprising ways. Our acceptance and presence are the keys to fully experiencing life as it is. When we let go of past regrets and future anxieties, we can enter a state of mindfulness, a space where we are not lost in thought, but awake to the now. The present moment is all we ever truly have, and it is in that moment that we find our true connection to life. Acceptance does not mean passivity, it means engaging with life as it comes, with grace, awareness, and openness. In this state of presence, we are not separate from the world, but in harmony with it, moving with its rhythms and embracing whatever it brings. Letting go is a path to freedom. It is the freedom to experience life without the weight of expectation, judgment, or fear. It is the freedom to be fully alive in each moment, without the need to control, to hold on, or to define our existence in narrow terms. When we let go, we step into the flow of life where everything unfolds as it is meant to, and we are no longer separate from the whole. In this surrender, we discover the depth of our true nature And in that discovery, we find peace, joy, and an enduring connection to the universe. Thanks for watching.